There we go. Joys of broadcast television or broadcast web, whatever it is.
Webcast.
Hello to everyone. Hi to Chris as well. I had an Eric Olander moment when I was in Mali, admiring all the solar panels that are for sale on the roadsides these days. And
no doubt Chinese made.
Mostly Chinese made, a few German, but mostly Chinese made. The equivalent of about $100 will buy you a panel that can charge 4 wall sockets and a small television set. Not bad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it really, the technology is improving quite a bit over there. How are things where you guys are? Michael, what's making news in Houston, Texas?
Really, there's nothing special going on here.
There is no news in Houston.
Hey, man, I could look on the New York Times, but I'm telling you, there's nothing happening in Houston.
No, it's the Houston Chronicle you have to look at, not the New York Times.
Well, that's a theory, but the Houston Chronicle is practically unreadable. No, there's not really much happening as far as legislation or other news at the moment. I mean, I think the big peak in American news since you last had a hangout, of course, was the Boston bombing, but that's old news now.
Is it old news?
I think so. I mean, it's not getting anything. I haven't seen anything surfacing up in any news outlets or papers about it, even on Facebook or Google Plus or, again, the print media. It's, you know, the guy, the surviving guy was wounded, put in the hospital, and now he's in prison right now. Actually,
right. They've arrested three people who could be charged with aiding and abetting, and that's we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, 2 of his roommates found a backpack in his room with fireworks in it where the gunpowder had been emptied out. So they took the backpack and threw it away because they thought that their quote was they didn't want him to get in more trouble. So now they're under arrest for obstructing justice, as well as a third acquaintance of his who lied to the police, evidently not realizing that lying to the police is also obstruction of justice. So 3 more people are in jail, yes.
Three more people in jail. Ruth, what's making? Hi, Ruth. How are you?
Hello.
What's making news up in Liverpool?
Let me think. Mine's gone blank. Beg your pardon. A gentleman has recently been jailed today for 10 years for selling fake bomb detectors. He made £55 million out of people's misery, really. He was an ex-policeman as well, actually. But yeah, he's been jailed for 10 years, which, personally, that was the maximum he could get, but I don't think that's enough.
What a scam.
That's disgusting. Really bad.
Wow.
Yeah,
No conscience.
that came up a couple of years ago when when the Iraqi government was building back up and they were buying all types of weapons and things like that. This guy goes over there and sells them what was basically a golf ball detector.
Yeah.
And he told them that it could detect mines that were 3 feet underground. It could detect drugs. It was this miracle thing. And they sold millions and millions of dollars of it to the Iraqi government and a couple of other governments around the world. And unfortunately, because it couldn't actually detect a bomb went off and maimed a couple of people and killed a couple of people because they thought they were safe. The guards thought they were safe. So he was finally sent to jail last couple of days.
So a scam artist uncovered. Eric Olander, what's making news where you are?
Well, we've just come off of a 5-day weekend to celebrate the annual celebration for the end of the Vietnam War. So the fact that our ancestors contributed to my 5-day week is really a great pleasure through our defeat here in Vietnam. So that was really quite a, hey, listen, I was enjoying.
What does Kevin Kline say in Fish Called Wanda? It was a tie.
It was, well, some call it a tie, and not here they don't. It's a clear victory here. So they had parades and the whole thing here. So the end of the Vietnam War. So it was back to work today, but that was a nice one.
Eric, I got to tell you, over here in France, we've had quite a conundrum because yesterday was May Day. Oh, hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Who joins us now. Yesterday was May the 1st was a holiday, International Workers' Day. May the 8th coming up, that's when the French celebrate Victory in Europe Day from 1945. So the problem is, the French are very good at this thing which we call the bridge, le pont, where if the holiday is on a Tuesday or a Thursday, you kind of take a day off after or a day off before. Kind of like Thanksgiving in America. The problem is this year they both fall on a Wednesday.
So they're going Wednesday to Wednesday.
So it presented a bit of a conundrum for the French, but cunning as they are, they found a way around it. I took the metro today. There was nobody. Everybody's left town.
Well, listen, I've been eager to join the Hangout this week to do some French bashing. Are you guys following the Daily Motion? Did you follow the Daily Motion?
I'm not bashing. I'm saying that's a good thing.
Eric, you've been away for quite a long time now, and you still have this need to come in and bash them.
Hold on, it's French envy. Let's go ahead.
We got to talk about the Daily Motion Yahoo story. How Montebourg, you're the illustrious industry minister who's done apparently nothing to attract jobs and investment into France. Completely yells. He reminds me of our former boss, Mr. Alain de Pouziec, who basically reacted emotionally and said, no American company will take one of France's most, esteemed startups, and basically.
Let's explain the context for everybody else here. Daily Motion, which I guess, Eric, am I wrong in saying it was a precursor in a way to YouTube?
It was about the same time.
About the same time. But of course, YouTube being now in partnership with Google is really running roughshod over the rest of the competition. And Daily Motion, owned by France Telecom, Orange, if you will, and painstaking negotiations that have been going on for months and months to sell it to Yahoo have come across the veto of the French industry minister, the French state, which owns a 27% stake in Orange and France Telecom, saying no. And I got to say, Eric, if it's French bashing, there are French doing it too. The boss of France Telecom, Stéphane Richard, is furious about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he should be. They were going to set up an R&D institute in southern France. They were going to guarantee to keep jobs in Paris. Now Yahoo's coming out and saying they're actually reconsidering the whole French market because they don't actually make that much money in France. So, I mean, the stupidity of how this guy has been handling himself, this goes back to the Goodyear, tire fiasco as well.
Yeah, plus the Daily Motion can't grow without someone like Yahoo helping them grow. They're never going to grow beyond what they are now.
No, and they won't let Google buy them because for antitrust reasons. So there's basically Microsoft, and that's it, who can buy these guys. I mean, the stupidity is just mind-boggling. Yeah. Absolutely mind-boggling.
It is a surprise twist, especially since this same week, on Monday, the French government sent what small business leaders here said was, for once, a very positive signal by slashing capital gains tax and closing tax loopholes, enabling venture capitalists to buy and sell businesses, going back on what had been a much becried initial plan to raise those same capital gains taxes. So it seemed as though all had been repaired, and then this.
And meanwhile, I think that Montebourg is by now in a nice French beach, sitting down with a drink and just laughing at this whole episode, because he doesn't seem to think like, for example, Eric Olander. Eric, have you been following this story just because you're interested in what goes in the tech world, or have you been reading a lot of French media at the moment?
No. This was front page of the Wall Street Journal. So this is a big international story. Yeah. And I think it's as much about Yahoo and what Marissa Mayer wants to do, and also as much about really the decline of France and its ability to attract jobs. This is that there's two parts to the story, and these are the kinds of jobs that France needs to attract, which is the tech sector, development, R&D, innovation. And I really got to wonder, does Hollande think that Montebourg is now a liability? He should, if he doesn't.
I spoke to a source yesterday who was privy to all the negotiations that went on when they lowered the capital gains tax, and the $64 question, I hope I'm not getting too inside politics for all of you, was who's running the show? Because at the finance ministry, which I don't know if you've been to Paris, looks like a giant boat. It's this huge
one of the
building,
ugliest buildings in France.
which has thousands and thousands of employees in it.
Sorry.
And in it, there are no fewer than 6 ministers. There's the finance minister, there's the labor minister, there's the industry minister.
One of the hardest buildings to get in. Have you ever tried to get in?
Yes, I've come in. You
really?
can get it back.
Yeah, well, I thought it was way too complicated.
Anyway.
for
So I asked, all right, who's calling the shots? Her answer, none of them. The decisions were being made, guess where? At the presidential palace on all of this.
Well, he obviously ordered them to disclose their wealth, so they're beholden to him. So.
Anyway.
So hold on. Your source is saying that Hollande is calling the shots at the moment?
Maybe not. No, hold on. Maybe not for Daily Motion.
Okay.
But certainly.
Because I don't even find the men
certainly
capable
for cutting
of
the capital
damage.
gains tax. It was his fiscal advisors.
Okay.
And Tire and Goodyear, what do you think that was the Élysée, or was that Montebourg who's doing that?
You and I disagree when it comes to that story because Mo Taylor. I have serious doubts over whether he had any intention ever of buying that factory, and I think it's pushing the caricature too far to claim that the French work 3 hours a day. That is. It makes for fun copy. I seriously,
I can attest. François works more than 3 hours a day. I see.
I do recall.
Yeah, one other aspect of this that hasn't been mentioned is that this will stifle new startup ventures in France because the Banque Publique d'Investissement, which helps fund startups, only has so much money. And now Daily Motion says, oh, we need another 50 million to go expand overseas. So that sucks out a lot of money out of, I think I've read they have 400 million to spend on new ventures. And a big portion that's going to go to Daily Motion to keep them French and keep them growing as best they can. Although I don't
Listen,
know.
Matt, you're absolutely right, because here in Vietnam, there's actually a very, very large French community. And a lot of the people that are here are young tech entrepreneurs, just like in California. And you ask them, are you ever going to go back? And they say, never. They say they can't build businesses in France. So they're building them in places like Vietnam, in Hong Kong, in the US, anywhere but France.
Yeah.
And, that's tragic.
Yeah, and Silicon Valley won't lend any money to a French operation as well. They know why. Everybody understands this outside of the Palais Élysée, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if those new measures change anything on that score. Chris, what's making news where you are?
And over the last month, we had the cybersecurity bill came up for a vote again, and they keep changing it, tweaking the language a little bit to make people think that it's taking personal cybersecurity into account, but it just doesn't. It just gets more and more vague. And it's called CISPA, and so for anyone that's not familiar with it, it's basically a sellout for the government to basically monitor real-time internet traffic, chat sessions, everything at any time, and ultimately, what they want to do is be able to collect everything on the internet all the time. That way, if something happens, say the Boston bombing, for example, they can always go back and go, okay, so here's information and here's evidence. That's not necessarily what CISPA does, but they take these things in little baby steps, and they keep withering away dragnet operations where they just take everything. take away the person's choice. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, the National Security Agency has been doing that for years. CISPA is just a legalized way of addressing a civilian acquisition of data. But NASA does that now. I mean, NSA, National Security Agency.
Yeah, and it's basically what happens is all this stuff's going on, and then as soon as people start finding out about it, they go, okay, well, we need to make this legal. And
that scares you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I understand the need for surveillance, but we already have the ability to wiretap. I'll use that term, but wiretap communications, be they instant messaging or anything like that. We already have that ability, but you have to go and get legal authorization. What they want to do is just be able to, like he was saying, they're already doing it. They collect everything. They want the legal authority to be able to collect everything and then go back and use and find evidence that was already collected.
Yeah, what the NSA does cannot be used in court, certainly not against an American citizen, especially. And there are titles that are going to protect that from happening without a warrant. But it should be mentioned that America is not the only country that does this. Most of the European countries have been doing this for years as well, in their secret, in a secret way.
If I could just broaden the question here, I've been wondering about this. When you see the growing debate about the use of drones by the United States, which is in an extrajudicial context, since they're not doing it on U.S. soil, they're doing it abroad. When you see this issue about cyber surveillance, is this stuff that's always gone on, only it was harder to pinpoint, or is this a problem that's getting worse, is my question.
It is far more granular than you can possibly imagine now. So in the past, they didn't have the ability to follow the level of detail of information. The other part of it, and I think what was just said is absolutely correct, that it is disturbing, but not just to focus on the government side, but the corporate side. And the corporate databases that talk to each other, and between the government, CISPA laws, and also the corporate databases talking to each other, the individual freedom and privacy is, it's a thing of the past. But the scale is much different than it was.
Well, there wasn't that much information flowing around before, and we did, even under the Bush administration, follow all the wire transfers, the bank wire transfers that were going through that Brussels funnel point. So that's certainly public information. But the thing now is that there's an enormous amount of data flowing across the internet, and that's and obviously if you're on the point of view of the person trying to catch terrorists, that's what you want to be able to find and filter deeply into the things you're looking for.
It certainly seems as though authorities are getting better at sifting through data. Here in France, we've had two new political scandals, one involving the former interior minister, and it was wire transfers abroad of a cash payment of 500,000 euros, which he claims were for the sale of a Dutch master's painting. Art experts say it's grossly undervalued. He had a bit of a problem, I think, on the first day because he didn't remember the name of the painter. And I think if I had sold a painting for 500,000 euros, I would have remembered his name.
Just a detail.
But it seems as though people are having an easy. I get the feeling people are having despite all the mountains of data out there, people are having an easier time sifting through it and finding stuff.
Well, it always was available. It was just only available to a very small select, like the NSA group of people who weren't interested in any of the corporate things. They were interested in, national security. And if it expands beyond that small group to a wider group of people having access to data, that's where the danger comes in.
All right.
Systems over 10 years ago.
Covered this week the sale of some of the wine in the Élysée Palace to help the French budget deficit.
Yeah. We did. The week began with that story. I don't know how much it's going to dent the French deficit, but there you go.
You'd be surprised. There's probably a lot of valuable wine down there.
You'd be surprised. We have employees at France 24, by the way, who used to work at the French Senate television station. And
didn't know some of the wine there.
well, I can just tell you, the best wine cellar in Paris is at the French Senate, and every Friday they would have sales because they'd have to renew their stock. This is our tax euros at work. Okay. And the line would every Friday at lunchtime, and the line would stretch all the way out into the courtyard. So yeah, there are bargains to be had if you're among the privileged few.
Hey, how about Mali? I saw your report today. It was very good.
Oh well, thank you. Did
you watch it? Good, yeah. Good. That's cool. It's nice to hear. It was I would say a very, very interesting experience. It was intense. It was we spent 7 days there, and it was a lot of work. But it was a very interesting story to tell because it involved so many people and so many different people. I would say people with different beliefs and different paths, but part of the same country.
I hope you don't mind me saying this was Annelise's first trip.
Oh, he keeps emphasizing that. No, I don't mind you saying because it was my first trip to Sub-Saharan Africa. There was also that. But most I was trying to get just like the bigger picture. No. If we were here to discuss my impressions, we can spend the whole day because there was that side to the trip. My very personal view of it because it was amazing. It was mind blowing. It was a very different thing than I think. Very different than I expected, and in weird ways, very similar to places that I grew up. But it was very enriching personally, but also professionally. I think we did a good job. What did you think of the final show, François Picard?
Oh, I guess that's more for Matt to say than me. But what was interesting was you get the sense that we do tend to see things in broad brushstrokes when obviously you don't go places. Everybody said Mali's the new Afghanistan. And yes, there was this week a 6th French soldier killed. I think his vehicle ran over an explosive device. But you know, when you go there, you realize no, Mali's not the new Afghanistan. The reason the northern Mali became this haven for these Salafists who had been there not for a week or two, but had been there for a decade, and only nobody paid attention to them because it was a forgotten region. And that power vacuum is not difficult to fill. You just have to pay attention and keep your eye on the ball. It's not the same problem as Afghanistan,
though there are similarities, and people in Mali would be the first ones to tell us that there are similarities. I think what the question was in terms of is this will Mali be in Afghanistan was more to do with the French operations in Mali and how long will the French have to stay to really secure and bring the stability, a long-term stability back to the region. I think the way I see the question is Mali the next Afghanistan was much more to do with that. Aspect of the
right now there are 99,000 ISAF U.S.-led troops still in Afghanistan. Long term, what will if there is a permanent French presence? What will it be? A couple of hundred? I mean, it's not.
Well, they're talking about 1,000 to the end of the year.
They're talking about 1,000 at the end of the year, but you know, we're talking long term here. Matt.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to see answered was you mentioned that in Gao that the banks are still closed, and that's obviously really preventing things from going back to normal. Yet the French are there in patrol. So what did you ask the banks or get any kind of statement of why or when they can come back to that area?
No, we did not. We did not speak to the banks when we were there.
We basically did not find anyone in the banks that could.
Well, I meant back in
Bamako, no.
Capital or something. Yeah.
No. Hopefully they will be back soon. Surely there must be pressure being applied on that score.
The idea. What we understood is that the idea is for the civil servants to come back first. Authorities, let's say, different kind of. Well, the mayor is back, but all his deputies, for example, he's got 4 or 5 deputies, and his inner circle. They're not everybody's back. So what the banks, I'm assuming the banks also, but people are expecting for the authorities, for their government to come back first, and then for them to be able to be back with a certain feeling that those that organize everything in the city, those that are calling and organizing the life, if these people are back, then everyone else can come back. What I've heard a couple of times there is that, and it was an expression that we talked about a couple of times, is that Mali needs to come back to the north. The idea that authorities from Bamako, but also authorities that represent power, that represent the state of Mali, need to come back to the north and just take the north with their hands and take care of the situation, so that people feel that it's safe, that life is back to normal, and that then everything else will come with that. But I guess somebody has to do the first step, and I feel that that's authorities, the government.
The lesson that doesn't seem to be yet learned, or at least I hope we get a pleasant surprise on this again, is you need to have a plan to develop the north, to offer an alternative to what there was. In the absence of anything else, well, there was a lot of trafficking in the north, things that could be developed, such as livestock, because it's grazing areas near the banks of the river up there. Were not developed, were not helped along. So I hope that people are having these kinds of discussions right now, and not just focusing solely.
That you guys are drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid?
What's that?
Is it possible that you're drinking a little bit of the French Kool-Aid? You know, I mean, there's no indication that Mali will be stable after the French leave. I mean, if you look at the trend right now in North Africa, Tunisia is reverting to chaos. Certainly, Egypt is going down that path. Libya, how many, what was the French embassy blew up this? The car bomb went off in front of the French embassy. We know that the chaos in Mali is an offset of what happened in Libya. Why would you have any optimism that Mali is going to develop? More importantly, the United States is increasingly disengaging from these parts of the world.
Well, you're wrong on that score, because the U.S. is... Go ahead.
One quick second. The United States, a new poll came out, very important, big national poll in the United States, which really revealed a very strong reversion to isolationism, saying that the United States needs to focus on at home. I went to a Center Strategic and International Studies, the CSIS speech here in Ho Chi Minh City, and the research analyst pointed out, saying the next 10 years are going to be dramatic in the Middle East for the U.S. As the United States becomes the leading energy producer in the world, it's increasingly going to disengage from the Middle East more and more, and from North Africa, because it doesn't need it for its energy anymore. So you're going to see, all of these factors.
Eric, there are two answers to that question. No, we're not drinking the Kool-Aid, because we know, as I said, that the French aren't leaving. They're going to be staying. And you're right. If they do leave now, there is a power vacuum. That said,
maths will come back.
That said, these jihadists, they had been there comfortably implanted for a long time in this inhospitable part of the north of the country that nobody ever goes to. And that's been broken up. So that's one thing. The second one is the United States has just set up just announced that it's setting up a permanent drone base in neighboring Niger. They're going to be working with the French. There's going to be a permanent presence for national security reasons, and also to monitor as well drug trafficking, because these are routes by which drug trafficking goes. Does that mean the problem is going to be solved? No, and you're right. It is a game right now of whack-a-mole across the Sahara. We see most recently the fighting that's been going on the last 48 hours in this mountainous region between Tunisia and Algeria, where Tunisian authorities claim that a lot of those fighting, the jihadists that are there, are people who used to be in northern Mali. So they've sort of scattered to different places, and yeah, they're still around in other places. The whole security aspect is not going to go away. But at this point, it didn't look to us like Mali as a state was about to disintegrate the way it did perhaps before the French invasion. I'm sorry, French intervention. maybe some call it French invasion.
Yeah. No, I didn't hear that.
Well, if the U.S. is able to block the inflow of funds supporting jihadists and weapons, then that has a big effect too. And that's what I got out of your report, is that people believe that that has been broken for now at least, that what they did before can't be repeated. That doesn't prevent it from happening another way, but that's what you've got to block. If
No, and there has to be, as the journalist we spoke to in Bamako said, there has to be an alternative. You can't, in an area where people never see a teacher and never see a doctor, and that's important. And
I'll go back to remittances as being important too, because if the people have money in their pockets and they can go about their daily lives and even start new businesses, buy a cow, that is what leads to stability, more so than most every other form of aid. You got to get the banks going again.
And that is entirely true. We've seen it in neighboring Senegal, where remittances from the diaspora, most notably living in the United States, really powers the economy there, and it's done more to develop Senegal the last decade than has any humanitarian aid organization or World Bank program.
Similar effect in Kenya.
Michael, you were making a point there.
I don't know if I was making a point, just responding is all.
Saying the U.S. is on the ground with a true presence in many countries in Africa, as to Mali's stability is no more predictable than the stability in Iraq or Afghanistan. Yeah, the whole issue is there what happens if is there a power vacuum that follows? Of course, the case in Iraq is very different from the one in Afghanistan. Iraq, it seems, feeling the knock-on effect now of what's going on in neighboring Syria, but perhaps that's a topic for another day. Annelise, what are we discussing tonight?
No, Francois, what are we discussing tonight? Because that was your choice, and I was a little bit... So every now and then...
You have to forgive Annelise. She's Brazilian. They don't really like football.
Yeah, and we're talking football tonight. And I tend to be a bit skeptical. I think growing up in Brazil with two brothers, I have two brothers, football was a big part of my life.
Congratulations, by the way. The renovated Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro, Maracanã, is now up and operational, but it only has now 78,000 seats.
Yeah.
Well, used to be more than 100,000.
We will organize the Google Hangout about the upcoming sports events in Brazil very soon. But let me just close what I was saying. Well, growing up in Brazil with two brothers, I not only watched all football matches that you can imagine, but I also heard them on the radio at the same time during the TV transmission. I'm not a big fan of football anymore because I think I had enough for a lifetime. But tonight, Francois found a very interesting way of...
Was that because of France's victory over Brazil in the 1986?
Multiple victories over Brazil, actually.
Yeah, no, that doesn't really, no. In any case, Francois found a really interesting angle to discuss tonight, and I think the discussion is going to be interesting. Tell them, Francois, what are you going to be hosting?
Today's topic is a parable for things that are going on this continent, Europe. Whether or not you like soccer, just bear in mind that it is a surprise to many that Bayern Munich could defeat Barcelona 4-0 and then 3-0 in Barcelona. And we're going to have an all-German final of the European Champions League. And German football, which had been discarded, in fact, some even suggested at one point about 5 years ago that the French Football League was as good as the German one. Well, they can forget that concept now. So Germany doing well on the football field, a parable for Germany's stature in Europe itself. And we'll be talking about it with our panel.
Don't miss that, 7 p.m. Paris time. And
even if you don't like football, it'll be good.
It will be good. It will be good. I'll see you guys again the first Thursday of next month. When will that be, François Picard? That will be first Thursday of June is June 6th.
June 6th, D-Day. Be there.
Yeah.
D-Day.
See you all soon. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. And
Goodbye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.